There's hope for the future. This message presented by the Florida High School Athletic Association and the Florida Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM and 99.1 FM, the only local station that talks sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. From Gullick and Wingo to the Sports Drive with Chad Brilliante. Plus talk football with Coach K at noon, sports call every Saturday. If you'd like to partner with us as an advertiser or a promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEVY, Milton, Pensacola.
The following has been produced by Talk Football LLC. Former Florida Gators quarterback, NFL quarterback, and NFL head coach. Coach K. Stevenson has a resume second to none, and now he's sharing his insider information with you. Talk Football with Coach K starts right now on ESPN Pensacola.
Welcome into Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach K. Stevenson on this Tuesday afternoon. Hope everybody's doing well, staying safe, washing your hands, continuing to practice social distancing at this time. Look, we're starting to move forward. As we've said before, the beaches are opening up, businesses are opening up. We're starting to get to that point back to normalcy. It's going to be a little while, but nonetheless, we're getting there. Step by step, remember, continue doing what got us to that point. It's so important right now to keep everybody safe. But look, as we always do, we'll start out our show. We'll continue to do this. Look, we want to thank our first responders and healthcare workers. These people are on the front lines each and every day, regardless of what's going on with COVID-19. They're out there, front lines. It is, with the wildfires that have been going on, what they've been able to do, stepping up from the firefighters there, the EMTs, nurses, whatever it may be. We appreciate you. And being a military town, we are so grateful for our military. They understand what it's like to be on the front lines, a little bit different front lines here, but nonetheless, we are so proud of you and what you've been able to do to help us. We also want to thank our other essential employees like grocery store workers, as well as truck drivers, people like that. Listen, you know who you are. In a time right now where there's so much uncertainty, we are so grateful for you for what you've done. That's why I've been telling people, listen, practice a little more patience. It's tougher. These people are out there each and every day. And you know what? They're not making millions of dollars, but they are out there helping us get back to normalcy, being able to get what we need to in all this. So, you know what? Just tell them you appreciate them. It means a lot. A kind word goes a long, long way. And, Coach, I know you feel the same way as I do, but how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, JP, and as always, I echo your discussion there about the first responders and all of those people that keep us safe and allow us to do what we do.
Absolutely, Coach, and we are, like we said, so grateful. We also are so grateful for our sponsors sticking with us through all this as well. It's a tough time for everybody, but just what they mean to our community and as well as our community. Everybody, look, has been doing such a great job. And, look, we got a lot to talk about today in a little bit of time. 850-623-1330 is the number. Give us a call. Let us know what's on your mind. Bill Carr joined us yesterday. We'll talk more about what he said as well. Really good phone call there. Coach, I want to start with something that, listen, it's come up. This happened a little bit ago. Of course, there's a lot of controversy going along with it. But the XFL, now I had a bunch of questions this weekend. Well, so the XFL failed again. What do you think? Is it done? I mean, is it like the Alliance of American Football, the AAF? It's just gone now, like it just showed up for a little bit. And I said, well, let's remember something. This is the XFL was very successful when you're talking about a spring football league like this, to start out averaging about 20,000 fans at each game, which for a lot of people are like, well, wait a minute, NFL stadiums pack out. Well, yes, but this is not the NFL. We have to understand what this is, and it's spring football, and there was definitely a market for it. This was going to roll right along. I mean, until COVID-19 struck and they were forced to shut it down, this was something that, look, we would already have our champion right now. We'd have known, was it going to be the Houston Roughnecks or the Dallas Renegades going to rebound? How this was going to play out. But, Coach, when I look at this for the XFL, I think personally, because they are interested in selling, they're looking for a buyer, whoever wants. A couple things here. They have $46 million in revenue during the season. This is half a season now. Like I said, a 20,000 average attendance, 1.9 million average broadcast viewers. I think is extremely interesting there. And there's, like we said, a lot of potential buyers. There's some expressed skepticism as viewership and attendance were declining as the season progressed. But, Coach, when you look at this here, look, we know that the XFL would have made it through the season. We know that Vince McMahon had enough money for it for a while, but with this happening, look, he shut it down. He filed for bankruptcy. Now, I know there's some issues there with Oliver Luck, who filed a wrongful termination suit against him. But, Coach, outside of all that, the XFL and what it means, meaning it's a spring football league. It's a league for guys that maybe couldn't make it on an NFL roster or were on a practice squad and didn't make it, trying to showcase their talents to get an opportunity. Do you see the XFL coming back? And, Coach, when you look at this, I think there is absolutely a league or a time for spring football.
Well, I think we need to look at it in totality and not necessarily refer to it as XFL, because XFL does not have a monopoly on spring football. Spring football, there is a market for football in the spring. There is no doubt about that. And if anything proved that it was this, I'm shocked. I was shocked when they shut it down. I thought maybe they had a golden goose here and could ride this for right on out. My gosh, they had television networks. They had a good, as you mentioned, good attendance as expected. I mean, certainly not anything less than expected, and had some exciting play, to be honest with you. And it was not. It was true football, not any of this pro wrestling stuff. It was real football. And people experienced it and liked it. So I was shocked that it went down the drain, and certainly with some of the people they had involved, Oliver Luck and others. But my guess is that somebody is going to come up with a formula. Now, I don't know whether somebody's going to buy the XFL, going to buy somebody else's program. But they could certainly. They don't have the rights to spring football, so somebody else, I think, will come along and come up with a recipe, if you will, for doing it right and have enough backing to make sure it's going to be there and play. That's my thought, because it's certainly proven to be something that is doable with the American public.
Yeah, Coach, I agree. I think it's important to remember, too, with the XFL, and I say XFL just because of what it was, but spring football, these guys that played in this league, a bunch of these guys, many of these players went on to sign contracts with NFL teams. I think that's important to note, because that's the whole point of the league. Listen, Oliver Luck came out and said, we want to be a complement to the NFL. Not, they're not trying to compete. You're not going to compete with the NFL. You're not going to compete with college football. But when you look at the spring football league there, that's exactly what they did, what they were trying to do for the reasoning behind it. Now, we know, of course, you're trying to make money and things like this, but for the players, that's the whole point, is to try to get to the next level. For most of these guys. Now, some of these guys, just want to go out there and play football and make a little money while they're doing it. But nonetheless, I think that spring football, Coach, I agree with you. Not necessarily calling it XFL, because anybody can have rights to that spring football there. There's definitely a market for it. Going to be interesting to see what happens, because I kind of think nobody's going to pick up the XFL. I can't see it. I see somebody creating their own league, not to say like, okay, because all I hear is, well, the AAF really succeeded, didn't it? Well, it's different. There's a different way to go about things, and I think a lot of people learned a lot from the XFL to make it their own. So we'll see. Nonetheless, I think it was successful. I mean, it was half a season, and they got a bunch of guys signed into the league, which is great when you're talking about trying to rebuild it. So, Coach, I want to talk about college football a little bit here. Interesting. Now, we'll talk about Tua in a minute. His brother, Talia. Now, people forget Talia, was still on the roster at Alabama, went there after Tua had went there, and, the little brother, we never really saw Talia a whole lot. He's a 3-star guy coming out of high school, a good player, for sure a good player, but for a lot of people saying he never really should have went to Alabama, well, you have to understand their family. It's a very tight-knit family. Talia put his name into the transfer portal, and listen, Talia is a good quarterback, but that quarterback battle right now at Alabama is the real deal. I mean, Talia understands the writing on the wall. He sees that, you know what, he can compete for a job, but is he going to get that job? Who knows? But anyway, with Tua going to Miami, he has entered the transfer portal and now left Alabama. He can still come back if he wants to. I don't see that happening. But, Coach, a lot of people skepticizing on where he could go here. I gave my opinions a couple days ago when I heard about this is, listen, I believe Talia is going to probably transfer to Miami. And the reason I say that, De'Aaron King, the Houston transfer, is there on his final year. He'll graduate. They need a quarterback. They've had Jaron Williams, the other younger quarterback, the sophomore quarterback, put his name in the transfer portal. So they're going to be looking for a quarterback. Talia is a good quarterback. I'm not knocking him at all. You can't compare yourself to Tua. Tua was a once, when you look at him and Joe Burrow, those are once-in-a-lifetime style quarterbacks, especially at this level. But, Coach, when I look at this, Talia getting into the transfer portal, Florida International has been another one, Florida Atlantic with Willie Taggart. I could see him going to Miami or somewhere down there in South Florida just because, listen, the entire family could be down there in South Florida, and that would fit them in what they did because we remember they moved from Hawaii over to Birmingham when Tua went here, and then Talia, of course, going to Alabama, had other offers where he could have probably played. But this is a tight-knit family, Coach. Do you agree with my statement here in thinking that Talia could go to someplace like Miami or South Beach?
Oh, I think there's no question about it. It's a tight-knit family. They're all going to move to South Florida. You can bet on that. I think he'll transfer to one of those schools. They've got a number of them that play D1 football down there. Like you mentioned, from Miami to Florida Atlantic to Florida International. And he certainly would have an opportunity, I'm sure, to transfer to one of those schools and probably end up playing some. Again, it's important to remember that he is Tua's brother. He is not Tua. And he was not going to play, I don't think, based on what I've heard. Okay, I'll give you a little insight. He was probably not going to play at Alabama, barring injury to other quarterbacks. There were at least two other quarterbacks, maybe three other quarterbacks that were going to play there before him. So that being the case, I think it's probably a good decision on his part. I think Saban will certainly be, he'll be fine with it. He's not going to try to block it anyway. And let it go. It'd be good for him and good for his family and good for Tua.
Yeah, I agree, Coach. I think, look, at Saban loves that family. We saw what Tua meant to him. It's just a different side of Saban that we saw during this where he looked human, and that's what you understand Talia wanting to leave. And like you said, Coach, Talia, he didn't look like he was going to win that battle. They have a lot of talent there at that quarterback position for that quarterback battle this year between Mac Jones, Paul Tyson, Bryce Young. I mean, the list goes on. And then you look at Talia, and he was kind of the odd man out. But it's not to negate what he's done and the type of player that he is. It's just those are some high-level players, and you know what? I think that he can be successful going to a place like Miami that's trying to rebuild right now and revamp that program. But especially the family comes first. We know that with the Tagovailoas. They are like we talked about, close-knit. And, Coach, I want to talk about Tua at this point. Now, Tua just signed his rookie deal, 4-year for a little over $30 million. Finally got it signed, got it done. My question now, of course, Tua's jerseys are tops in the NFL when you talk about the rookies of the draft picks they're signing. Look, he is now the face of the franchise. The Dolphin fans coming out loving it. They're so excited that Tua is there. Remember, this is the team that tanked for Tua. It seems to be coming together for him right now. But when you look at this, Coach, I see the excitement for the Dolphins fans. I see everybody tweeting and talking about it and articles about Tua as the face and all this other stuff. My question to you now is the thing that I was scared of with Tua going to Miami. What I was so worried about is him playing too soon if he's not 100% ready. Now, I don't know the details. I'm not going to act like a doctor. I'm not going to act like I have inside sources. Coach, I deflect this to you solely because, listen, you've been an NFL coach. You've played quarterback at the highest level. You understand all the ins and outs of this. But, Coach, I've seen fans pressure teams into making bad decisions before. Coach, could the fans pressure the Dolphins into playing Tua too soon, or do we have enough faith right now in guys like Brian Flores?
Well, there are going to be a number of different influences on when he plays. First and foremost, and let me kind of go through this as I would see it happening in Miami or anywhere else, given that all influences are equal in each franchise. Okay, they're not. I know they're not. They're different. You go from franchise to franchise, starting with owner and then fans and so on. But I don't know that there's any magic formula. You know, I hear some of these opinions that some people on television are giving about him. Oh, they'd be crazy to play this year. He needs to have a red shirt year. And that's baloney, number one. Number two is, he should play right off the bat, first game, just throw it in there and let him go. Now, somewhere in between, I think, lies the truth with Tua. And you have to consider that this short off season has hurt all rookies. Young guys are at a disadvantage because they haven't had the all the training camps and time with their coaches and other players to get familiar with each other and the system and so on. So that's gonna more than anything else, that's gonna take a little time. I could see him. He's a bright guy. He's got a lot of football inside him. He's gonna pick up on that pretty quick, and I'm sure they'll keep some things as simple as they possibly can. I would hope they do to try to give him a better chance to play early. But I could see him playing mid-season. Maybe even after the third or fourth ball game. A lot of it's going to depend on how they're doing. And let me tell you, that pressure from fans and the press becomes quite formidable. And the people that feel the pressure are the administrators and the owner, up to the owner. So those things will add another factor in how soon he plays. But I'm going to guess that he probably gets to get a feel for the game. And they've got an old veteran there who can certainly help him. And I think he would be the type of guy that would help him come along as a youngster. And that would be that's the way I would see him possibly playing at Miami in best case scenario.
Yeah, it's one thing that I said from the beginning, talking about before the draft. I hoped that they would not rush him into this, and you know what? At this point, I like what the Dolphins have done. Now, for people that say, well, the fans don't make the decisions, well, they can't influence decisions. I will say that they don't make the decision, but they definitely can influence decision. And Coach, I think it's a good point what you said as well. Is every team, their fan base and how things are done is different. We have to remember that. So it's going to be interesting. And the reason I just brought that up, Coach, is just because there's so much excitement for Tua. And the fans are they can't wait. And for them to go out there and put Ryan Fitzpatrick, if they start losing a couple games there and it doesn't look too good, remember they've had a really good offseason as well. So this team's a lot better than what they were last year. And Ryan Fitzpatrick did a good job getting those guys in positions to win last year. Especially, when you talk about the last game and how they beat the Patriots. That made Dolphins fans feel a little bit better, but nonetheless, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, and especially if the games maybe get pushed back a little bit, how that influences maybe you're looking at week one. I think there's still so much time and so much speculation. We don't know how it's going to all play out, but nonetheless, just thought I'd bring that up. And Coach, one more thing before we go to break here. Interesting enough, I'll deflect this to you because you know more about this, well, a million times more about this than I do, Coach. Look, the league agreed to raise the debt limit by $150 million per team. Now, the current limit was $350 million. Now they bumped it to $500 million for the 2020 season, and they've been talking about this for a little while, but they've agreed on something here, so $150 million. Coach, when you look at this is, of course, with a lot of uncertainty if fans aren't able to attend games and things like this. What I'm going to ask is this a good idea or a bad idea on the NFL and for the clubs? I mean, I'm not sure on any of this. I just know it's a big story right now when you're talking about the debt. So raising $150 million, is this just a protection account basically?
Yeah, it's more a necessity than anything else, JP. They would have to put that ceiling higher just to cover the possibilities. And the NFL, they're too sharp, too well organized, too much ahead of the game not to have thought through most all options. And just like we talked about on the air, I've filled our audience in on what I've heard that they're doing, for example, with the different options. I know of 3. There may be more, and probably are more. I just know of 3 options that have been discussed and discussed recently. So we talk about those. They also would be discussing financial possibilities, and so this is just a necessity. I think that they raise that ceiling in the event of loss of revenue. Now, what kind of loss of revenue could come from? So even though fans and the stands tickets only amount to between 15 and 16% of their revenue, but because of the economy being down, there could be some sponsorship failures on behalf of the televisions, and they may have to negotiate a little lesser pay from the fees from the television. I don't know that to be true by any stretch, but I would think they'll look at that possibility because they have such a great relationship with them. They would have to work with them if it became absolutely necessary. And then, of course, loss of ticket sales, and there would be an effect on properties and other ancillary revenue sources. So they just have to have that there to cover it in case of a shortfall.
Yeah, I think it's important just because there's so many unknowns right now. It's good to know. That's what I was curious about, Coach, is reading it. The debt limits. I've never really looked into the debt side of this when you talk about the NFL, and it's some good points. We have no idea what's going to happen. Hopefully we get stadiums with fans, but to start off with, it looks like that may not happen. But nonetheless, at this point, I don't think it really matters. We just want football. But it's important to remember the sponsorship side of that because the economy's down. Sponsorships change, obviously. People can't afford to do what they were doing before. But nonetheless, Coach, I want to talk about the 2020 season when we come back from break right here, hearing from Greg Byrne, the Alabama athletic director, as well as some comments from Dan Mullen that may interest you. All that and more right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Sometimes your bank, your family, and your friends love you, but they don't have the money to help you. Sometimes we have chances to make money, but the old saying, you've got to have money to make money, rings true. At Pensacola Specialty Pond, we can help. If you have trucks, heavy equipment, airplanes, boats, jet skis, anything with value, Pensacola Specialty Pond can loan you that short-term money you need. No credit checks, and at Pensacola Specialty Pond, you're going to find the money and the discretion you need.
Now at 6428 Pensacola Boulevard, north of Car City. Call 432-9050, 432-9050.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
There's only one name in town when it comes to afternoon local sports talk. The Sports Drive with Chad Brilliante.
Some athletes don't want to be given... nobody does. No, look, when you play with your pops as he gets older, one of the most embarrassing things, my daughter's 3, I just slam it right in her face right at the play school hoop. Like right there, like I'm Zion Williamson.
The games, the players, the fans. ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
You can watch Coach K talk football live right now on our YouTube channel at ESPN Pensacola 1330.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Tuesday afternoon. Hope everybody's doing well. Look, we're getting some good signs moving forward here, but we got to continue to do what got us to that point. Nonetheless, we are talking some football with you as always. Coach, I want to get back into our conversation of what we were talking about with, teams and the season's coming up, and there's so much indecision right now, and people want answers. But at the same time, we don't have to have those answers. We still have plenty of time. I thought it was interesting to hear from a couple people here. Now, one person, of course, Greg Byrne is the athletic director at Alabama. Alabama fans, you definitely know him, and he's talking about the season a little bit. And it's short here with Laura Rutledge, but just talking, she was asking about full stadiums in the 2020 season and kind of where they are right now. Here's Greg Byrne talking to Laura Rutledge.
When you think about some of the plans that are out there to try and imagine having fans in a stadium, but maybe socially distanced, at least to begin, what would that look like for you guys in Bryant-Denny Stadium?
That's one we've been talking about some. Our hope and plan right now is to play this fall with a full schedule and a full stadium. We will adjust if we need to, and based on off of what the medical experts guidance we get from them. If that happens, I know there's already been some stories out there from the NFL and such of what a reduced capacity could look like to do social distancing at 6 feet apart. It would be a dramatic reduction in what your attendance would be. We're fortunate right now. We still have that opportunity to give it some time to see where we go with this and see where testing develops, to see where the vaccines develop, to see what therapeutic drugs develop.
Coach, when you listen to Greg Byrne right there, I think it's important just because he makes a note that we still have time. They still have time. They're looking at all these things, the same things that we're looking at. Look, we talked to Bill Carr yesterday, and look, it's time will tell what happens here. But, of course, college football is a lot different than the NFL and the things that are going on. I know you heard Dan Mullen talking a little bit about the upcoming season as well. What kind of news and notes have you heard from Dan Mullen?
Well, it's quite revealing, really. Let me get on to Dan Mullen in just a moment. Let me add something to the Alabama story. As per Paul Feinbaum this morning, Feinbaum added that as you look across the country, the Power 5 conferences and states, how states will affect the opening of football season, there's a possibility. There's been some talk because of the California, the blue states out west with Washington and California and Oregon, that the Pac-10, whatever, Pac-12 will not, may not play, may not open at the same time or may not play at all this year. So what do you got? You got Alabama and SC and Southern Cal scheduled for the opening big game in Dallas at Jerry World there. And because that might not happen, Alabama has contacted TCU, and because TCU has that same weekend, that opening weekend, has a game in Berkeley with University of California. So if the California teams don't play, TCU's right there in Dallas, Alabama and TCU then could play rather than Alabama and Southern Cal or TCU and Cal. Now that's very revealing, JP, extremely revealing. And then when you couple that with what Mullen had to say today, I think there's been an awful lot of conversation going on, and I think it's certainly this probability of the Power 5 conferences breaking away from the NCAA is much, much more evident now. I think it's going to happen. And there may be even a difference in the Power 5 conferences based on political problems. But Mullen said that if the problems exist, they're planning to play right now with their total schedule starting on time and full stadiums. But that could change based on what the states declare has to happen in the way of training camps, stadiums, and so on. And that he had an awful lot of talk that seemed to indicate to me that there's going to be a parting of ways with the NCAA. Remember, Mark Emmert, all these other people are talking about ways that they can play. I mean, coaches, athletic directors, and so on, and certainly in the SEC and ACC and so on. But Mark Emmert made the statement, more or less like he was the final word on it. This is just last Friday, I think. He made the statement that if it's not medically approved, and if you don't have students on campus and classes open, there will be no fall sports. Now, he makes an imperative statement like that, and it's like that didn't even exist. When you hear the coaches and athletic directors talk, they're not paying any attention to Mark Emmert about that. They're talking about playing, which they should be. So I really see this unfolding faster than people might think. They're the big split.
Yeah, I agree, Coach. I think this has changed our viewpoint on something that we may not have talked about it for many years down the road, 3 or 4 years down the road, of Power 5 conferences separating just because of all the differences and everything. But with Mark Emmert coming out and making those statements, like, you know what, like you said, he's got final say on this. It's interesting just because we're hearing so many different things. And listen, Coach, talking about the Pac-12, I read an article this morning as well, talk about, we're thinking possible best-case scenario, which to me, best-case scenario would be the season goes on as normal, but they're saying that we play a conference-only schedule to keep our teams from traveling across the country. One of the first games of the season was Oregon taking on Ohio State. Now, that was supposed to be in Autzen and Eugene, Oregon, so that there's a big-time impact there for a lot of these teams. And I think that's interesting, what you were mentioning as well with Dan Mullen. Now, Greg Byrne, for these guys, look, it's a lot. I know it's different everywhere we go, no matter where you're at in the nation. But when you look at the Northeast, it's rough right now. But it does come down to political issues. I sure hate to see, it wouldn't be the first time, but I sure hate to see politics get in the way of this. I understand that's a part of it when you're talking about sports sometimes, but man, this is going to be interesting. Now, we have plenty of time. That's where I want to make that very clear. We'll say it, and we'll continue to say it. There's plenty of time before these decisions have to be made. So, you know what? For Greg Byrne and Dan Mullen to come out and make their comments, I think they're preparing. Of course, they have many preparations for what's going to happen. But like Greg Burns said, listen, if we need to make adjustments, we can make adjustments. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens no matter what. But Coach, talking about that a little bit, talking about training camps, I want to go back to the NFL side of this real quick. Look, we know that the Falcons have discussed joint practices with the Bills and the Dolphins because that was going to be first of their couple games here. So to cut down on travel a little bit, we've heard now, of course, coming out that teams are possibly going out of state if they need to do their training camps. What have you heard about that on that side of things, of teams leaving their state? That way they can continue to train. Have you heard anything in particular about that?
Oh, you bet. Yeah, the NFL certainly is making plans to do that. I would guess that's you got a better chance of happening than not happening. For example, New York, you got the Bills, you got the Giants. In New York, New Jersey, the Bills, the Giants, the Jets, and then in Massachusetts, of course, the Patriots. But you're looking at those teams, and Michigan too. You know, you got problems there, possible problems. So those teams are looking at going to states that aren't as locked down as New York, New Jersey, Michigan, whatever, and having training camps in the other states, meaning Florida or Texas, wherever. And I can see that. I can certainly see that happening without any question. Now, how they carry that over into regular season, if they still have lockdown problems in their states for home games, and I think they have made some accommodations for an option there to changing the venues if they have to, or playing at neutral sites might be an alternative. So there are plans to cope with that, but the training camps I think are definitely a real possibility.
Yeah, it's you know what, it's an interesting side to this because we talk about college football and prepping. Well, the NFL there's you get 32 teams, and it's a lot easier to do things like that. And it's interesting to get your take on that, Coach, and what you're hearing from your sources. Just because of what the question and all this. I keep getting the question from outside, people asking, okay, so are we going to have football or not? And I just throw my hands up like, I know as much as you do at this point. And you know what? I think the clarity of this is we have to remember, for the NFL and college football, this is not NHL, this is not NBA, this is not MLB, where their seasons were in the middle or we're getting ready to start, and now they're losing each day. They're losing money. They're losing games. They're losing everything when you talk about it. This is you're talking about starting in September. Now, of course, training camps have to start before that. But nonetheless, it's something that if they need to get pushed back a little bit, they will, and it won't cost them really anything. The big thing here is fans. And when you look at fans for the NFL, like you mentioned, Coach, it's not as big a deal as, of course, college football. So in all this, for people out there, I know I've said this, Coach. I feel like I have to say it again. Everybody just take a deep breath. All right, we don't need to know. We're not going to know the answers today or tomorrow or maybe even next month. We'll see what happens depending on what goes on each and every day. That's part of this. Bill Carr mentioned it yesterday, and I thought it was very important. Listen, we don't know enough about this virus yet. We're learning. We're still learning about it, and each day changes, and that's the important thing in all this. For Dr. Fauci and all these articles you're reading, you can read on whatever you want. You can read about the positive of this virus, of moving forward and things that we've learned and things that we think we can figure out moving forward with sports, or you can read the negatives. It depends on what you want to do. That's where, you know what, if you want to be positive, be positive. I'm trying to be positive on all this. I believe we're going to have a college football season. I believe we're going to have an NFL season, and I believe to some extent we will have some type of fans in the stands.
I think you're right, and I think listen, this country, I have said it before, and I'll say it again, I don't think this country would allow, and by saying would allow, I mean the disruption, the civil unrest, if you took all of football away from this country, would be tremendous. I don't think that can happen. I think people need to get, and by the way, on Fauci, I think people have to realize, and I've heard through some friends of mine and articles and so on, I've heard some very disparaging things about Fauci, which I wouldn't repeat here, but not the greatest report on his background and what he's done from time to time. So I'm certainly not going to put all my dependence on Fauci, number one. I think his opinion is valuable, but it's just that. It's an opinion, it's not the gospel. And I do think that people should prepare for football, which would be great. Prepare for television football for sure. Maybe not as much interaction with fans in the stands or otherwise, but and it's going to be more difficult for colleges than it would be for the pros. Okay, the NFL could do it. Let me go back to one thing. This should put an exclamation point on what I'm talking about. Additionally, in the interview with Mullen, he said something that was very, very interesting, very revolutionary, very different. He said that not all colleges, because of the different state laws and so on, not all colleges are going to be ready to open at the same time, ready to start play at the same time, or even play. So, that being the case, the teams that are should go ahead and play. Meaning, if they're ready at the University of Florida and they don't have any impediments from state government, and they're ready to play, and their opponents from like states are ready to play, they go play. And it doesn't matter if Michigan State can play or Michigan can play or whomever in certain states, Southern Cal or Cal or whomever. Just get your act together when you can, but we're going to play football. That was his message, his main message that I heard, which I thought was very, very interesting, and also leads me to believe that there's been quite a bit of discussion between teams, coaches, and athletic directors.
Yeah, Coach, it's one thing we have to remember, too, just because we don't start out with fans. For all these people who are like, well, you either play with fans or you don't. Well, no. Why do we have to start out with them if we're not ready for it? And remember, we can go through our weeks, and as we progress and we learn more and we continue to do this, we can add fans along the way. That's where it's important to note. Now, college football is tough because they need fans from the get-go, just with the money and the avenues that creates there. But nonetheless, Coach, I think you're right. It's very good. It's interesting information there when you talk about Fauci as well. We're not political on this show, Coach. We make that very clear. We're about the sports side of it, but we also want to bring you the facts. And one thing is, like you said, I think it's important. Don't put all your eggs in the basket just because of something you read and just because a guy is considered an expert. Now, he knows more about it than us, but there's influences everywhere. That's where read things and then think for yourself. Use caution, educate yourself. That's the best thing you can do in this life. We live in the greatest country in the world, and it's because we can do things like that. We have the freedom. But nonetheless, Coach, we're going to go to a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Virginia Cavaliers real quick, and we're also going to move on to the MVP odds for the NFL were released. And some may surprise you, some may not, and we'll talk about who we think can upset the number one guy right there, which maybe you heard him winning a Super Bowl last year. All that and more when we come back right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text. Stop the wrecks.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck, Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola. Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck, Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Hey, this is Chad Brillante from the Afternoon Sports Drive, and you're listening to Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Tuesday afternoon. Hope everybody is doing well. We're talking some football with you as always, and we've been breaking down a college team. We're almost done with the SEC and the ACC. Today, the Virginia Cavaliers, talk about a few minutes about them here. This is an interesting team, of course, that lost to Florida there in the Orange Bowl last year. Battled hard. Bronco Mendenhall being the coach. I have a lot of respect for Bronco Mendenhall and what he's been able to do, and turning that Virginia team into, from zeros to not heroes, but getting there to the point where they're very competitive. Now, I know they played in the ACC, of course, last year going 9-5, 6-3 in the conference. They had a really good defense when you look at some of the players they had, and an interesting offense, to say the very least. Now, they averaged about 32 points, which was 40th in the league. Gave up about 27 points, which was 60th in the league. A lot of that came later on, especially when they played teams like Clemson. Now, a quick note here when you talk about their schedule moving forward. Of course, they're supposed to open up against Georgia in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Then they play VMI right there in Charlottesville, at home again to take on UConn, on the road to take on Clemson, back home to take on North Carolina, on the road at Georgia Tech, on the road, believe it or not, to Old Dominion right there in Norfolk. Two home games against Miami and Louisville, on the road right there to take on Duke, home against Pitt, and on the road in a rivalry game against Virginia Tech. Always a good one nonetheless. Coach, when I look at this team, look, they had one of their most successful seasons last year in quite a while, probably 15 years when you want to break it down. Did a great job. Bronco Mendenhall, like I said, has a monumental program turnaround, taking them from a 2-10 season in 2016 to 9-5 in 2019. It takes a little bit longer. It's tougher for them than other teams, but this is a team that has an unbroken growth mindset. They're clear improvement each and every season that they've been under Mendenhall. I like the optimism that Mendenhall brings to them, especially for 2020. Now, of course, no spring is going to be interesting. This is a defense that's extremely good, bringing a lot of people back. When you look at the offense, now they've got some question marks. A lot where this offense sputtered was their lack of a run game. They had some running backs, but they never really used them. Now, this is a team, of course, Bryce Hall injured. This is going to be an interesting year, to say the least, for Virginia. And what I mean by that is when Clemson and those teams in Florida State, other schools like that, Miami's up and coming, it's hard to recruit in Virginia right there. Kind of in between everybody. And you know what, Bronco Mendenhall, coach, all I'll say is I have a lot of respect. I think that defensively they'll be fine. But to have another 9-5 season is going to be extremely tough with that schedule that they have moving forward.
Yeah, I would agree. Mendenhall has done a good job everywhere he's been. Obviously, I was shocked when he left, I think, BYU to go to Virginia. And he has done an outstanding job turning that program around. He's obviously a good football coach. And you're right about recruiting. It's a little more difficult for him there. But Virginia has a lot of prestige. Not much tradition in football, but they are a football team, I think, on the rise right now. And certainly with the bulk of the ACC they can hold their own and play extremely well. Now, you're right, playing Clemson. I think Clemson, FSU, Miami, North Carolina now, these teams are going to be very, very difficult for Virginia to beat. So from a record standpoint, I think they're going to continue to play well because they're coached extremely well. And they do have some people returning. But I just don't see how they can improve on their record. I think if they win 8 or 9 ball games, again, that's a heck of a year for them.
Yeah, for Virginia, you look at that, and that's exactly right. That is a heck of a year. And a team, like you said, when Bronco Mendenhall left by BYU, I was surprised as well. But we look at what he's done. He's built that defense up. Offensively, they have had some players. Like, they put some players in the NFL. And to be honest with you, they went toe-to-toe with that Florida team. They made Florida look not very good. And I think part of that was, or more of that was, Florida in general making themselves not look not that good. But nonetheless, they battled in that game, and that was what was so important. For a lot of people that said this team won't be within 21 points of them, they came out and battled hard. So that's a lot to what Bronco Mendenhall brings to the squad in Virginia. But, Coach, listen, I want to go to a quick break here because I want to have some time to be able to talk about this. The MVP race is, look, they opened it up. Patrick Mahomes is number 1. We'll talk about some more of the guys here. But, Coach, I want to talk about who do we see upsetting Patrick Mahomes? Or, you know what, is it unanimous across the board that Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, that's going to be the MVP right there. We'll talk more about it when we come back right here from a quick break on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Highway 29 in Car City.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
For your ESPN Pensacola Ridiculous Facts, I'm JP. 2 days out of 365 days a year feature no professional sports games, the day before and the day after the MLB All-Star break. Remember when a day without sports seemed like forever? And because they both lost so many players to World War II military service, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles combined to become the Steagles during the 1943 season. That has got to be the most American thing I've ever heard in my life. Rest in peace, Steagles. And for your ESPN Pensacola Ridiculous Facts, I'm JP. JP here. Everyone here at ESPN Pensacola wants to send a shout out to our first responders and healthcare workers at this time. We know it's tough, but we appreciate the work you put day in and day out. We also want to thank our essential workers out there for helping all of us continue to live our lives as normal as possible in this time. For our community, keep rocking it. We are going to get through this. Remember, we were named the #1 strong town in America. That wasn't by accident. We have seen so many people step up and do their part, and we thank all those people for their efforts. We will be stronger for this, and together, we will beat COVID-19.
This is Northwest Florida's all sports, all the time station. From Destin to New Orleans, sports fans come here for ESPN and local sports talk. ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
Welcome back to Talk Football with Coach K. JP here with you alongside former NFL head coach Kay Stevenson on this Tuesday afternoon. Hope everybody's doing well, staying safe, driving safe, of course, getting some good news moving forward with our community. But nonetheless, we're talking some football right here. Coach, I want to talk about the NFL MVP odds. They were released now. This is, of course, Caesars Sportsbook releasing them for the 2020 season in the NFL. No surprise here that Patrick Mahomes is a 4-1 favorite to win it. Remember last year, Lamar Jackson was the favorite, and he won the MVP award. Right now, he's a 13-2 favorite. Coach, when going through the list here, Dak Prescott is a 9-1 favorite. Russell Wilson, 12-1. Christian McCaffrey's 40-1. We know how tough it is for running backs to win it. A ton of quarterbacks have won this. Tom Brady, some interesting names here, 16-1. Arizona Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray, 16-1. Disagree with this a little bit, but Drew Brees is 20-1, and Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers is 25-1. Now, Coach, we know the success that Kansas City had last year. Good story. Andy Reid, love Andy Reid a lot. Like the way that he does business over there. A lot of the players love him as well. Finally getting his win there. But when you look at this, is Patrick Mahomes, Coach, is he your favorite to win this year the MVP? Just off the top of your head. I know a lot of things can go into this. Or at 16-1, I like Tom Brady as well, just because he's going to be playing like he's a little bit younger. I know he's older, but now he's got studs around him when you talk about the wide receiver and tight end position. He's got an offensive line that does need some help, but they went out and drafted some help for him. The running back position, we'll see what happens with that. But this is a rejuvenated Tom Brady, I believe, and this is a guy that's playing with a chip on his shoulder. So, Coach, I ask you, who in your mind right now would be your favorite to win the MVP?
No question about it, Tom Brady. I think he, for the first time in a number of years, not just last year, but in a number of years, will he have the talent around him to fully utilize his abilities on the football field. It's amazing. See, it goes to more than just how fast, how far, all the other measurables. You're talking about more than any quarterback in this league, maybe than any quarterback has ever been. His ability to control a football game, to know what's going on and control a football game totally from the quarterback position. He's like having a coach who's a heck of a good player out on the field playing for you. The guy does a heck of a job. I mean, even in practice, his practice is so intense. These guys are going to learn more than they've ever thought about at Tampa. They don't know right now that they're getting a heck of a coach coming in there. Now, I think it's going to be Brady because I think he's going to lead these guys to a tremendous year, maybe even including the Super Bowl. I feel that strongly about him. I wish they had had the off season that would have given them a bigger jump earlier, but it's still going to be everybody's in the same boat, so it's still going to be a year for Brady. I think number two, there are so many I think that right now would come in behind. Certainly, you got to think about Mahomes, but I think maybe Seattle might have the number two most valuable player up there with their
Russell Wilson.
Around him.
Yeah, so, I agree, Coach. I think it's look, Brady. This is going to be interesting because 16-1 odds. Now, I'm not a betting man, but regardless, I think that's a little low, but I think there's also a lot of uncertainty when you're talking about a guy coming from a team that he's been with 20 years. I think for Brady, though, you're right. He is another coach. I mean, he is a coach on the field with you at all times on offense. It's with the weapons that he's going to have, I don't know if he'll lead him to the Super Bowl. Do I think he could? Yeah, of course. He's Tom Brady, and you're putting talent around him. I think the defense is going to be better. I just think this team is going to be above and beyond for people who are like, yeah, right, I'm not buying into this. Well, that's fine. I get it. I see both sides of this. I think also, you know what, that division, you can't forget about a guy like Drew Brees. This could possibly be his last year. We're not sure. I like Russell Wilson as well just because you can't count him out. But you know what? It's a hard award for someone who doesn't play quarterback to win because 42 quarterbacks have won it, 16 running backs, no wide receiver. But, Coach, on that note, that sound means it's time for us to go. We got plenty more to talk about, but we'll have to get to that tomorrow. It's been a pleasure, my friend.
You bet. Look forward to it, JP.
Absolutely, Coach. I appreciate it. And listen, we appreciate our listeners as well. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, talking some football with you right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola.
This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM and 99.1 FM, the only local station that talks sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. From Gullick and Wingo to the Sports Drive with Chad Brillante. Plus talk football with Coach K at noon, Sports Call every Saturday. If you'd like to partner with us as an advertiser or a promotional partner, just give us a call at 262-6000.
You're listening to ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. All sports, all the time. WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
It's First Take Your Take on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM Channel 80, the ESPN app, and on ESPN News. We are presented by Progressive